Hello, in this lesson we're going to continue 8.1 on circles and circumference, and we're going to expand into finding the perimeter of a semicircular region. And what that means is that we're going to find the distance around the outside of essentially half of a circle. In example 4, we're going to start with the definition of a semicircle. A semicircle is 1/2 of a circle. So all we do is we take a whole circle and we cut it in half. Now we're going to proceed to find the perimeter of semicircular regions. First thing I'm going to do is highlight the perimeter. In doing so, it helps me identify exactly what I need to find. So if I start at just one point on the outside of my shape, I can follow the outside around. There is half of a circle. Now I need to go across back to where I started, and now I've highlighted the whole figure. So to find the perimeter, I just need to find the distance of that highlighted line. The first thing I'm going to do is break it up into different components. I see that if I start here and work my way around to the other side on the right, that is 1/2 of a circle. You can think of drawing the whole circle all the way around, and it might look something like that. But that's not what I'm trying to find. What I want to find is the distance from 1/2 of the circle around the top to the other half. So I only want 1/2 of the total distance of my circle. So to do that, what I'm going to do is find the circumference of my circle and then divide it by 2. Again, the circumference will give me the entire distance around the circle, but dividing it by 2 will cause me to only be left with 1/2 of that circumference, which will now be that red line. After I'm done doing that, I need to then add in this last highlighted piece, which is the diameter of the circle. So once I add in the diameter, I've then covered all of the components of the perimeter of my semicircle. So first thing I'm going to do is find the circumference of this red circle. Well, circumference is equal to pi times diameter, or 3.14 times the diameter of my circle. And the diameter of my circle, as we can see here in this drawing, is 6. But then I want to take that circumference and divide it by 2. So if we get out a calculator, we can easily multiply to see what our numerator becomes. 3.14 times 6 gives me 18.84. So my numerator is 18.84. divided by 2 in the denominator. So now I'm going to take that 18.84 and divide by 2 to see that that semicircle has a perimeter of 9.42. So what I have done first is I found that the entire circumference of this red circle is 18.84. But I only want half of the circle, so I divided by 2 to find that the circumference of just half of that circle is 9.42. So this part is 9.42. And my units are meters. But that only gives me the round part of my semicircle. I now need to add back in the diameter. The diameter is 6. So once I add in this 6, I have then covered and closed my entire perimeter. So to half of my circumference, I'm going to add 6. And in doing so, if you'd like to use a calculator, you may. But in doing so, when we add, we end up with 15.42. So what we have found is that the distance around the entire outside of the semicircle is 15.42 meters. We had 1/2 of a circle plus the diameter, or essentially the flat part of our semicircle. I'm going to walk you through the next couple on your own before I ask you to try one by yourself. So to find the perimeter of the semicircular region, find the distance around the outside of these figures is what we're asked to do. So first thing I'm going to do is highlight what I'm trying to find. I want the distance starting at any point and going around the outside of the figure. I've gone halfway around the circle, but my entire figure isn't outlined yet because I need to add in this flat part. So first thing I'm going to do is pretend that this circle is a whole circle. If this were a whole circle, we know how to find the outside of that. The distance around the entire circle would be the circumference, or pi times diameter. But I don't have a whole circle, I only have half of a circle, so I'm going to now divide this in half so that I only have 1/2 of a circle. But I haven't quite covered my whole figure. I still have that yellow highlighted piece that I need to add in, and that's the diameter of the circle. Again, if I were to draw that circle back in, that distance is right across the center, which means it's the diameter. So I need to add in that diameter. Once I do that, I have then covered the entire perimeter of my semicircular region. Circumference. Circumference, we have two options. It's either pi times diameter or 2 pi r. So C can equal pi times diameter, or C can equal 2 times pi times the radius. Since we're given diameter, we're going to go ahead and work with this formula here. Pi is 3.14 multiplied by the diameter, which is 2. When I multiply these two together, I get 6.28. But then I need to divide that by 2. And I end up getting 3.14. So circumference was 6.28, but then I needed to divide by 2 because I only have half of a circle, and I end up with the distance around the round part of my semicircular region being 3.14 feet. So that gets me just around the round part. Now if I want to outline the whole figure, I need to add back in that flat part, or the diameter. So I'm going to go ahead and add in 2, and I find that the distance around the whole figure is 5.14 feet. Number 2. First, I'm going to highlight the semicircular region that I'm trying to find the perimeter of. I'm going to start anywhere on the figure, so I'll start here. I need to find the distance around the round part of the figure, but then I need to add in this flat part, or the diameter of the figure. If I were to draw the whole circle, the circle might look something like this. And that 7 centimeters is the diameter. It goes right through the center of the circle. So first thing I'm going to do is find the circumference of the whole circle. Again, circumference equals pi times diameter, or 2 pi r. Since they give me the diameter of the circle, I'll go ahead and use circumference equals pi times diameter. So my circumference is equal to 3.14 times 7. Or if you'd like, this is a case where we can use 22 over 7 for pi, because the 7s will reduce. But just to be consistent, I'll go ahead and use the 3.14. You can always use the 3.14 for pi. Circumference then is equal to 3.14 times 7, so I'm going to go ahead and get out a calculator and do the multiplication on my calculator. 3.14 multiplied by 7 gives me 21.98. So circumference is 21.98 centimeters. However, that is for a whole circle. We only have 1/2 of a circle. So I actually need to take that whole circumference and divide it in half. And when I do that, after I divide the circumference in half, I'll only be left with 1/2 of the circle. So that purple line there. But that hasn't outlined my whole shape. I still have this yellow highlighted region that I need to go ahead and add in. So I'm going to add in then the diameter, which is that 7 centimeters. So half of a circle plus the flat part, which is the diameter. I take my circumference, 21.98. I divide it by 2, and then I add in the flat part, which is 7. Now I can get out a calculator and simply do that math on a calculator. 21.98 divided by 2 is 10.99, and then we add in the 7. So 10.99 for this first part, plus 7. That 10.99 is the distance around the round part of your semicircular region. If you were to use, instead of 3.14, if you use the 22 over 7 instead here, your answer will be slightly different, but still very, very, very close, and that's perfectly acceptable. As long as our answers are very close for this section, they might not be exactly the same. So now I just need to add in 7, and I find that my total distance around the outside is 17.99. So the perimeter of this semicircular region is 17.99 centimeters. Now number 9 is just slightly different, and the only reason it's different is because they don't give us the diameter. Instead of the diameter, they give us the radius. So if half of the distance across is 15, then the whole distance across, from the left all the way to the right, is going to be a distance of 30 inches. Now that we found that diameter, we can go ahead and ignore this radius and proceed exactly as we have before. Go ahead and take a moment to try setting this one up and finding the perimeter on your own. First thing I'm going to do is choose my formula. Since I have the diameter of the circle, circumference equals pi times diameter. And now to find the circumference of the whole circle, circumference is equal to 3.14 times the diameter, which is 30. Getting out a calculator, 3.14 times 30 is equal to 94.2. So my entire circumference of a whole circle is 94.2 inches. But I only have 1/2 of a circle. If we go back to highlight, I want the left all the way around to the right. That's half of a circle. And now I go across the bottom, that flat part, to add in my diameter and find the entire perimeter. So this circumference is if the circle were a whole circle. So I need to take that circumference and divide it by 2 and then add back in the flat part. My circumference is 94.2. I need to divide it by 2. That gives me the round part of my shape, but then I need to add in the flat part, which is 30, to conclude the entire perimeter. So I have my 94.2 on my calculator. I'm going to go ahead and divide that by 2, and I get 47.1. So 47.1 plus 30. You may or may not want to use a calculator for this. If I add 30, I simply get 77.1. So the entire distance around my shape is 77.1. We found that the round part is 47.1 inches, and that flat part we already knew was 30 inches. So when we add those two together, we find the entire perimeter of 77.1 inches. That concludes our lesson on finding the perimeter of semicircles. Thanks so much for watching.